Hello, my name is John Bone. This is my poetry explication for English 102, titled Lady Liberty, Hopeful or Hypocrite? Emma Lazarus's 14-line short poem, The New Colossus, is a magnificent piece of literature that perfectly exemplifies what the United States of America was to many people during the late 19th century. Before we can examine the sonnet, let us look over what information we can gather from outside of the text. Emma Lazarus was a Jewish woman born in New York City in 1849. She was a great advocate for Jewish struggles across the world and was one of the first successful Jewish writers in America. Her most popular work, The New Colossus, is a sonnet written in 1883 dedicated to the Statue of Liberty that is inscribed on a plaque that still adorns the New Colossus to this very day. Now that we have some background information on the context of the author and the time period, we may begin to explicate the piece. As we read the title, New Colossus, we garner a sense of grandiose and awe. Who or what could be the successor of such an iconic figure? To elaborate, the original Colossus was named the Colossus of Rhodes and was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was a statue of a man that stood 110 feet tall atop a 50-foot platform. It was created in honor of the sun god Helios of Grecian mythos. It was a symbol of masculinity and power to all that stood in awe of it. Now we may begin the first 2 lines of the sonnet. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. These first 2 lines show the contrast of the aforementioned Colossus of Rhodes and the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty, though a colossus on its own, is not at all like the Colossus of Rhodes. When foreign merchants and soldiers and alike would sail betwixt the legs of the Grecian giant, they would garner a sense of fear and apprehension from the brazenness of the aggressive-looking and conquering man. The next 3 lines state, "Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning." The first 2 lines are not all that critical to our analysis, as it basically just lets the reader know that Emma's poem is about the Statue of Liberty. She does this by detailing it is a mighty woman with a torch at the coast. The next line requires more attention, however. When Lazarus details the imprisoned lightning, I believe that she is talking about 2 things here. 1, the Statue of Liberty's torch is almost literally imprisoned lightning, as it is electricity that lights it up once the sun sets. However, I feel as though a deeper meaning can be found when we look back upon what Emma discussed earlier in the sonnet. She contrasts the Colossus of Rhodes with the Statue of Liberty, and Rhodes was in Macedonia, which is in Greece. The most popular Grecian god was Zeus, as he was king of all the gods at Mount Olympus. His power was the ability to project lightning from his fingers, among others. When Emma discusses the imprisoned lightning, I take it that she is basically saying to the old Colossus in that time period, hey, you had your Colossus, and you had your imprisoned lightning, which is cool, but we made it better, and we will use it to help others, not to just sit atop a godly mountaintop. The sonnet continues with lines 6, 7, and 8 stating, "Mother of exiles, from her beacon hand, glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command. The air-abridged harbor, the twin cities frame." By explicating these lines, we can find more evidence of the true contrast from the dominating Colossus of Rhodes and the new Colossus. Whereas the old Colossus gave off a domineering paternal force, the Statue of Liberty has a much more maternal presence, accompanied by her endearing and welcoming aura. Her name, Mother of Exiles, shows that she welcomes all into her embrace, especially those who are ostracized from their native lands. Many seek out the warmth that emits from her light. The twin cities that her mild eyes command are New York City and Brooklyn, which at the time of Lazarus's writing were separate cities. Up until this point, the sonnet keeps a rhyme scheme of A, B, B, A, B, B, A throughout the first 8 lines. The next 6 lines of the sonnet contain a C, D, C, D, C, D rhyme pattern. This marks a shift wherein we transition from Emma talking about the Statue of Liberty to Lazarus personifying the new Colossus by permitting the Statue of Liberty to talk. The next line starts the Statue of Liberty's short speech. "Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp," cries she, with silent lips. This line harkens back to the old Colossus once more. The Statue of Liberty is telling the old Colossus and the rest of Europe that yes, your myths and stories that you parade around are of importance to you, but keep them. The author notes that the Statue of Liberty is talking through silent lips, I believe, just merely to ensure the readers know that this is an anthropomorphizing of the Statue of Liberty, and nothing else. The rest of the following lines that complete the sonnet all collectively build up upon one another, thus we will explicate them all at once, starting with line number 10. "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." The Statue of Liberty exclaims that she wants Europe's deserted and forgotten to come to her so that they may be cared for. She wants the tired, the cold, the hungry, and desperate masses wishing to be free. She ushers them in from ancient world to her new promised land of the United States of America, where it does not matter where one comes from, but rather what you make of yourself while you are here. She knows that there are peoples who are forgotten about in the overpopulated world, referring to Europe. Thus, she will take in the ones who do not necessarily have a place in the old world society and make something spectacular with them in the new world, with new people as she is a new Colossus. With her torch, she illuminates the gateway to America for the ones seeking refuge from the dark. Emma Lazarus' sonnet, The New Colossus, is a classic piece of literature depicting the general sense of the United States during the late 1800s about being a land of opportunity and a place where one can manifest their own destiny. While I do somewhat find this theme as a positive approach to immigration in the US, it also depicts how the US really only focused on European expansion and its citizens. The Statue of Liberty says that she wants her new citizens from the ancient world to come and be free, but she is neglecting the many other cultures of people who are not free in her very own lands. African Americans were among those who were not free in the US, and it was only about 30 years prior to the making of this poem that slaves were eventually freed in America, but they were not truly free. Many institutionalized injustices occurred to the many laws that were made simply to prosecute black men, women, and children, such as the infamous Jim Crow laws, that would stay in power until 1968, nearly 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. It is mind-boggling to me how Lady Liberty would want Europeans to be free in her own country, but not African Americans who had already been living in the New World. In addition, just 1 year prior to Lazarus's New Colossus was the Chinese Immigration Act of 1882. This act suspended all Chinese immigration for an entire decade into the United States of America. Many Americans attributed that this was due to the Chinese taking their jobs and other economic troubles in the West, but the Chinese race only made up about 0.002% of the population at the time, which could not have caused such economic disruption as many white Americans claimed. In fact, the act was more likely passed in order to placate worker demands and assuage prevalent concerns about maintaining white racial purity. I'm aware that none of this information necessarily has to do with the original piece I've been explicating, but it is just so striking to me that a Jewish woman, who herself would have been predominantly more scrutinized and mistreated than many other white Americans, does not wish to note or is completely unaware of the fact that there are people being mistreated in this country already, just as there are in the Grecian and European lands that the Statue of Liberty claims to be saving the exiled from. Thus, I find it painfully hypocritical that the Statue of Liberty provides an almost condescending tone, wherein she claims to be saving the neglected citizens of other countries, when there is plenty of injustice to go around in our own lands. Ultimately, Emma writes a well-written piece of literature with a good message at face value. However, if you take a moment to look into the time period when the sonnet was written, it is almost laughable how such a central idea of liberty, freedom, and helping the less fortunate can be written in a place that purposely declares laws in order to suppress non-white cultures. Due to this conflicting theme hidden under the surface of the poem, I thought it was interesting enough to explicate and share my opinions of the injustices brought about by those who claim themselves to reside in the land of the free. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.